All right, welcome everybody. I am Travis Hopson of PunchdrunkCritics.com, and I kind of had to just step on here. I got back from San Diego Comic-Con last night. I had to come on here and at least give my thoughts on the big Marvel panel. It was a lot of fun, as always. It feels like forever since Marvel's been there. So this was like a gigantic event. Saturdays at Comic Con for anybody who's ever been there in Hall H. Nobody leaves. So if you're in there, you stay in there all day waiting for the Marvel panel, and it never disappoints. They know how to do these things. Admittedly, Warner Brothers is really good at it too, but their stuff never really panned out all that well. But Marvel, their stuff always comes through, and they did not let fans down this year. They had a lot of big reveals, a lot of announcements. Of course, you see the image behind me, so you know one of them already. So yeah, let's just talk about it. I just want to get my thoughts out there. The panel wasn't all great. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. Not like the whole thing was amazing. There was definitely some lulls in there, but for the hour they had us captivated. And the whole thing started with a big, raucous, uh, gospel rendition of Madonna's "Like a Prayer." Of course, this is from Deadpool and Wolverine, which we now know is like the biggest movie opening weekend of all time, basically something ridiculous, $400 million plus worldwide, something crazy like that. I may go see it again today myself, honestly. Uh, but that was a lot of fun. It's a good way to get people energized, and as if it needed it any more than it already was. I mean, the place was already buzzing for Marvel. And the panel starts off. Rob Delaney's out there. He's hosting, Peter from the Deadpool films, and Kevin Feige's out there with him. And they start off with Captain America: Brave New World. And I'll admit, I don't think there's been a ton of buzz about this movie, which is sad because you're getting Anthony Mackie in his first solo movie as Captain America. But the panel starts off. Anthony Mackie comes out. Giancarlo Esposito comes out. Danny Ramirez, who plays Falcon, also comes out. And Tim Blake Nelson, who plays Leader, he comes out as well. Um, and eventually, to a roaring applause, of course, Harrison Ford comes out. He's taken over the role of General Thunderbolt Ross. Giancarlo Esposito finally revealed his role, because nobody really knew who he was playing this whole time. And he's playing Sidewinder, who is the leader of the Serpent Society. Not a great Marvel character, but our Esposito is going to make him awesome, of course. And of course, his version of the character is nothing like the version in the comics, which is probably for the better, honestly. They showed footage, what looks to be a new trailer for the movie, so I would expect that's going to come out soon. And I feel like it's going to be the final frame of that trailer that's going to get people hooked and excited for this movie again, because we finally got to see Thunderbolt Ross transform into the Red Hulk. Casual Marvel Comics fans may not know that Thunderbolt Ross is secretly the Red Hulk. And we finally get to see him emerge in the MCU. There are Hulks of other colors. There's a red She-Hulk also that we haven't seen yet in Marvel. So there's a lot of things they could do with the Hulk corner of the universe. But it looks incredible, as you might imagine. So I think that's going to be the thing that gets people hooked in. Marvel's doing a lot of these things. Like, I think the return to Comic Con was a clear effort to kind of reconnect with the fan base that they've kind of lost over the last couple of years by not going to Comic Con. You need this audience, right? You need these people in order to drive these movies, and also you need to get those people that were fans of Marvel phases 1 and 2. You got to bring them back in phase 3. You got to bring them back, and the way to do that is by bringing back characters people know, which is what we talked about, the thing that's coming later, Robert Downey Jr., but also by showing them, hey, there's a new version of the Hulk. What's up with that? People are going to be curious. So I think that is going to drive interest in Captain America: Brave New World. After that, the panel switched gears over to Thunderbolts. They brought director Jake Schreier. They brought Florence Pugh, who plays Black Widow. David Harbour sort of kicked the whole thing off by coming out as Red Guardian, and there's a running gag. He's kind of upset that nobody else came dressed in costume and only him. He had Julia Louis-Dreyfus there as Valentina. Yeah, Wyatt Russell there, who plays one of my all-time favorite Marvel characters, U.S. Agent. He was there. You had Lewis Pullman, who plays the Sentry. I'm still very curious to see how they're going to mix in this Superman level hero into the MCU. It just doesn't seem like it would work, but we're going to see. And Hannah John Common was there as well. She plays Ghost. So that panel took place, and they showed footage from the movie. It didn't quite look like a trailer to me, like a just some teaser footage, showing the team kind of being lured together by somebody who's trying to kill them all. We don't know who that is. It looks like they're trying to set this up as like the new Guardians of the Galaxy, with a bit of an offbeat sense of humor. Since that franchise is essentially over, they kind of need a movie, a team film to fill that role. That's not going to be the Avengers. The Avengers have their own thing. So it seems like that's what they're trying to set Thunderbolts to be. There's a lot made about the fact that the title has an asterisk at the end, so it's Thunderbolts, ding, asterisk. Don't know what that means yet. I assume it means something like similar to the comics. In virtually every version of the Thunderbolts, they are not a real team, or they always have something else going on. Like the original Thunderbolts were posing as heroes. They're actually the masters of evil in disguise. Later versions, they were hiding the fact they were bad guys, just bad guys. So there's always something going on. The Thunderbolts, it's never quite on the level, and I assume that's what that asterisk stands for. All right, next up, that was one of the things that people were really excited about. Me too. Fantastic Four. So we found out this movie is actually going to have a new title, The Fantastic Four: First Steps. And director Matt Shakman came out and he told us that they just began shooting 2 days ago. Of course, everybody's seen that photo that Pedro Pascal put up with the cast together. And he says, but he managed to put together some pre-production footage and all this kind of stuff that he brought for the fans. Didn't really look like previs to me. Looked pretty cut and dried. It's essentially, he showed us a short film that shows the kind of coming together, the Fantastic Four. You see Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards. He's kind of like, they're all celebrities in like this retro future version of the 1960s. They're all kind of celebrities. Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, is definitely a celebrity scientist. I think like on the level of like Mr. Wizard or something like that. And you see them coming together and going shooting off into space, and we don't actually see them transform into the heroes or anything like that. But the footage ends with Galactus. Like the whole thing is kind of shot in a retro style. You rounded off edges like you're watching in front of a tube TV. But the whole thing cuts back into normal framing, normal aspect ratio. We see Galactus kind of glaring in at one point. It looks good to me. I think this is going to have a very different vibe than other Marvel movies. Kevin Feige confirmed that the Fantastic Four is going to be showing up in both upcoming Avengers movies. So these guys, they're going to be brought into the modern MCU right away. They're not going to mess around with this. So very curious to see where this goes. The Fantastic Four: First Steps. Not sure I like that title, but what can you do? I think going simple is better. When you're talking about the Fantastic Four, a team that has traditionally had a hard time hooking audiences, both in the comics and in the movies. It's been tough. So like I said, I think simple is best. And of course they brought out the cast. The cast came out at the end, towards the end. Pedro Pascal plays Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby, who plays Sue Storm, Invisible Woman, Joseph Quinn, who plays Johnny Storm, Human Torch, and Avon Mas-Backrack from The Bear, who plays the Thing, Ben Grimm. All right. Oh, and their panel, it concluded with I think, a cheap version of the Fantastic Car, kind of floating around and ushering them off to go back to the set and start shooting this thing. All right, and then the panel concluded with the big stuff, right? The big stuff. The Russo brothers were brought out to the stage where Kevin Feige confirmed them as the directors of the next two Avengers movies. The rumor had come out like a day or two before Comic-Con started. So it has been confirmed they were treated like heroes, by the way, like returning heroes from the war or something. Like they had a whole big sizzle reel with all their accomplishments, all their movies, footage from Captain America: The Winter Soldier, still my favorite Marvel movie, Civil War, Endgame, and of course Infinity War. Um, and they talked about their reasons for coming back, and it's to tell this story. I mean, we could also say that probably the real reasons that Marvel threw a big check at them, and because their non-Marvel ventures have not been all that successful. But they do seem to fit in this world quite well, in this universe. So I'm glad to see them back. And they'll get this movie off the ground finally. So they're confirmed to direct the next two Avengers movies. We know the fifth film has gone through a shitload of problems. Back when it was originally titled The Kang Dynasty, Destin Daniel Cretton was the original director. He dropped out. Jonathan Majors, who was going to play Kang, he was let go for obvious reasons. Um, so they've been kind of floundering. There have been multiple writers who come on. Jeff Loveness was the original writer who left. Michael Waldron, who's usually like the Marvel's heavy hitter pension guy. He wasn't able to get it off the ground, doesn't seem like. And so they've totally repivoted. There was absolutely zero mention of Kang at all during this panel. No mention of Kang. My assumption is that they're going to pretend that he didn't happen, or they're going to quietly kill him off. I've said that they're going to pull a Vin Diesel and Triple X2. Just have like an off-screen thing where he just kind of like gets shot in the back of the head while he's sitting on the beach one day. But they're going to pretend that the whole Kang thing didn't happen. That's my guess. So the fifth movie is now got a new title. No longer is it the Kang Dynasty. It is now Avengers Doomsday. And of course, if you're going to call a movie Doomsday, you got to be talking about Dr. Doom. Of course, Dr. Doom is in it. The Russos talked about how if they're going to bring this character into the MCU, they needed the greatest actor alive to play it. At that point, I knew who was about to come out. I think most people do. If you've ever listened to the Russo brothers talk about him, you knew this is who they meant. And Robert Downey Jr. comes out to roaring applause and some astonishment, frankly, because, he's Tony Stark. How is Tony Stark Dr. Doom? That's a big question. We don't know how quite Marvel's going to handle this. In the comics, there's a what-if storyline where Tony Stark does become Dr. Doom. There's a whole mind switching thing that goes on as well that's involved with it. It's one of those stories that establishes that Tony Stark is ultimately a good person, because he kind of his mind gets switched into the body of Victor Von Doom, and he becomes a good person. Whereas the mind of Victor Von Doom gets put into Tony Stark, and he becomes evil. So, and he becomes Dr. Doom. So that could be how they handle it. We're still talking multiverse stuff here, right? I think there was a kind of a feeling throughout this panel, and you probably saw a lot of it in Deadpool and Wolverine when they make fun of it. But the multiverse thing has not been a success. It just hasn't. It hasn't been done well for Marvel at all. And I think this is their way of kind of cleaning the board, wiping the slate clean. And that's what these movies will do. Bringing in Robert Downey Jr., arguably the most popular actor in all of the MCU, is, like I said before, a way to bring back fans who may have dropped off for a while. They're going to be curious about why Tony Stark is suddenly Dr. Doom. They're going to be curious about that. That's going to bring them back in. Now, he only seems to be back for these next two movies, right? The only two movies, next two Avengers movies. It doesn't seem like he's going to stick around after that. But then again, who knows? You never say never, right? He's supposed to be done, years ago. And there he is. He's back. So that was the big news. So the next two Avengers movies, they got the same release dates in 2026, 2027. Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Dr. Doom is integral to Secret Wars. So he's definitely going to be a big fixture in that as well. I assume they got to bring in the Beyonder at some point. At least I'd hope so. Beyonder is crucial to the Secret Wars storyline as well. There's a lot of characters that he could bring in the Secret Wars. They could bring in Nimrod if they wanted to, but that'd be going a little bit too deep into X-Men lore, I think. The X-Men will obviously factor heavily in these films as well. So that was the Marvel panel, essentially. That was the Marvel panel. It's about an hour long for anybody who's never been. I always recommend that people, if you're a fan of anything pop culture, that you go to San Diego Comic-Con at least once in your life just to experience it. And try to get your way into Hall H on a Saturday for Marvel or whatever your favorite thing is. If it's in Hall H, you should try to go there and be there for it. It's always a spectacle. And Marvel does it better than just about anybody else that ever gets into Hall H. They are fantastic at this. So yeah, this was a huge event. Lots of news, lots of footage, and it's got people excited for Marvel again. It's got me excited for Marvel again. Like I'm an Iron Man shirt on and everything. I'm excited for this. That's it, everybody. Those are my brief thoughts on the Marvel panel at San Diego Comic-Con. I appreciate you taking time to watch. You'll be seeing more from me at punchdrunkcritics.com, and of course loads of other outlets if you're here in the DC area and national as well. All right, I'll see you later. Goodbye. Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.